All right, hello everyone, and welcome to round one in, I believe. Look, sorry, there's kids screaming in the background in my house right now, but my mother, or not my mother, my wife is taking care of them. Gonna go ahead and jump right into this. This is round two of the single elimination draft of the latest Clash. Today is July 30th, and decided to cast from round two just because, based upon the timing, it seemed like the games were a little bit more interesting. There is still a little bit of the bug in the visual display. Not quite sure how to get around that right now. But let's go ahead and break things down here. It looks as though it is going to be Heaton playing Papa Goot up against KurtisKapahala, who is playing Grishal the Profane. So it is going to be more of a mill style deck that does get +1 attack for troops in each opposing crypts versus summoning those daybreaks. We'll see how these players go down and what we'll be expecting here in this best of 3 series, round 2 from the latest Clash. Go ahead and get started. I'm assuming that there is. Why is there? What's going on? Is it going? Why? Starting player delay 15 seconds. All right. Not quite sure why. There it goes. All right, gonna go ahead and play down a Blood Shard first and go ahead and play down Killer Blade of the Milky Eye. That is a 1-drop, 1/1 lethal. Very effective at being able to just stop any incoming things. Let's see what the counterplay is going to be. It is going to be a Blood Shard and then just passing it straight on back. So not really concerned about that early damage. Follow-up play is going to be... do I need to constantly hit spacebar? This is not how it's supposed to be. There it is. There is a Diamond Ice being played down. And it looks like the replay system actually coincides with the actual gameplay timer now. So there is a Guidance now being played down. And that is going to go ahead and bring on a Thought Collector. Going to go ahead and attack. Obviously, the Guidance was for Seek Adventure, not Seek Fortune, as he now needs a second Blood Shard. Ghostly Exchange now being placed down as well. That is going to start milling cards, making it very difficult to do a fair amount of damage early on. We are going to place down a Daybreak, attack with the Killer Blade of the Milky Eye, and then play down a Bark Thrall for a little bit more damage. Both sides getting milled and a Blood Shard getting milled off the top. That is going to hurt, as the Thought Collector is not going to be able to deal nearly as much. And we see an exhaustion on the Bark Thrall. Follow-up play. Oh, top decking Twilight Eclipse. Talk about top decking what exactly you need. That is going to be putting a clock on his opponent now, dealing 2 damage per turn and healing 3 as long as that Daybreak is still in play. All right, Nameless Order now out in play as well. We'll see what all of the follow-up plays will be here as we now move forward. All right, Blood Shard going to go ahead and be placed down. Most likely a Thought Collector could be thrown down, or a Loyal Toolbox. This is timing for what is the proper path. The Runic Strike can act as a constant as long as you don't top deck a shard. If you do top deck a shard, you allow yourself for that second Daybreak. So he might go that method to try and get that third constant down and get that bypass damage. On the other hand, he is on a clock as well. There is a Winter Widow and a Nameless Orator out on the field as well. I didn't touch anything. I think he's actually taking his time thinking here. Do I need to hit spacebar? All right, I think, yeah, this is actually legitimately, he's taking his time between the Loyal Toolbox and figuring out what he wants to do in terms of the long run. All right, he's going to go ahead and declare combat here. We'll see if he attacks with the Bark Thrall and the Killer Blade of the Milky Eye. He is still thinking about it. There is no attack. Instead, playing down the Loyal Toolbox, it is going to get Flight and Crush, an additional clock as a Daybreak gets milled off the top. That Daybreak would have done, well, a bit more damage and put a reverse clock. Health of Papa Goot, that is not how he is most likely going to end up losing this game any longer. But we did see an Alchemite get removed as well. Now, that Ghastly Exchange, you are allowed to sacrifice a troop. Sacrificing a troop in order to get a troop from either of the crypts. It looks like he's just going to be dropping a Nameless Citizen, as we are now going straight on to the next one here. All right, let's see. We do have a Guidance. He could Guidance, Seek Fortune, get that third shard or third charge, get another Daybreak, and then attack. He should be able to get the Runic Strike off, and then he... oh no, he goes actually after adventure, gets a Daybreak Diviner. That's actually perhaps the best thing to get. He will get a 1-cost constant for free, and he will get a Dread Factory onto that. It doesn't have anything there, as we do see a double mill, a second Twilight Eclipse now in the crypt. Now, we are going to see a Nameless Citizen out and about. I don't believe he is going to be attacking with that, though, at all. No real reason to. The clock is not on the health, as we now see, well, he's going to attack, most likely no block. There it goes, no block, as we now see a 6/6 Walking Boneyard now in play. That is perhaps a little bit scary, as we are going to see perhaps what the follow-up play is going to be. He's going to go ahead and exhaust 3, and now perhaps try to get some Dreadlings out in the play, as we see a Dark of Night. Dark of Night will be played, most likely on that Walking Boneyard. That Walking Boneyard, we see a little bit more mill there. We actually see the Dark of Night actually take out the Orator, as the Dark of Night could, in fact, well, no, he didn't do it while it was exhausted. So there could still be a little bit of mill going on, but you do see that Grishal the Profane is currently at 5 health, and there's not much that can be done. 4 additional damage in the air. Execute is not going to take it out. We do see a Food for Thought in hand that will mill for a little bit more, but in the end, it's not going to really matter. Not going to be able to do truly enough damage in the end here. So what can really be done? Do we see any flying troops in the crypt? All right, there's a sacrifice right there. Going to go ahead and grab that Frost Rock. That is going to buy half a turn, as you see a Dark of Night, well, quickly removing that from play, and I believe there is game number 1. So game 1 going quickly to Papa Goot, as we are going to be moving on into game number 2. I realize that, well, I'm just going to fade it to nothing for a second as I go ahead and queue up game number 2. Let's see, game number 2, there we go. All right, game number 2 is back up, ready to go. This time we are in the driver's seat of, well, Grishal the Profane. I forgot to turn or switch the names of the players back on, but hopefully you guys are still enjoying this, and let me know if you enjoy a bit of casting once in a while. You do see, well, a rather large flood coming in from Grishal the Profane this time around, but he does have the all-important Alchemite here, which will allow him to draw cards early, and also if he needs to, he can ditch shards as well. So this is actually perhaps one of the best opening hands to only have 2 cards in limited. You have, well, a win condition with your Nameless Orator. You have an Alchemite, which is a strong turn 3 and turn 5 play, especially when you have 3 additional shards in hand as well. You'll most likely be able to ditch something early on. All right, Vesper is not attacking, surprisingly, as we now see a flip of the Frost Rock. Gonna go ahead and place that down. Brittle Alchemite now out on the field, and we'll see what the follow-up play will be here. All right, 3-2 could be dropped on the board in just a moment. The Daybreak Diviner, Papa Goot is out. Vesper is now a 2-2. Is that gonna swing? Yes, it is. And does the damage. Daybreak Diviner now out on the field, as well as another additional, well, constant is in hand. Gonna go ahead and play down another Blood Shard. Nameless Orator will most likely be hitting the field. Are we gonna attack there? Yes, he is. Brittle Alchemite, there is the bounce to get that reverted back in the hand. Play the Nameless Orator, and a follow-up pass back to his opponent. Now, the Daybreak Diviner is most likely going to swing. No, actually not going to swing. And are we going to perhaps see a second Daybreak played? Here's some options. He could try and play for that Shade Knight. That Shade Knight is a powerful 4/4. He could swing it with the Vesper, but that is just going to be blocked by the Nameless Orator. If a Daybreak is played down first, well, then the Shade Knight cannot be played down. So he's just trying to consider his best options and path. I do believe the Shade Knight will be played down here, and just pass back to his opponent, as he can follow it up with another Daybreak the following turn. Let's see. We do see a lot of shards on both sides. Meanwhile, Grishal the Profane, he's going to be able to play down an Alchemite. The next turn, he's going to have a 3/6 or is I believe a 3/6 out on the board that is going to allow him to draw more and more cards. And anytime you can get card advantage, especially in limited, it does tend to have things go your way very, very quickly. It's difficult to counteract a sheer card advantage in limited, as well. Papa Goot is still deciding what his follow-up play is going to be. I'm gonna go ahead and hit spacebar. He goes ahead and he does place down that Shade Knight before combat. Nothing really going on there, as we're now gonna have an Alchemite, most likely. Oh no, Killblade of the Milky Eye. He wants to have the Nameless Orators out on the out in play, ready to do all of its tricks. So during all of that slow time there, he knew, you know what, I need to be able to start burying cards off of my opponent's deck. That is ultimately gonna be what gives me the victory, unless some sort of clock in the shape of well, a Twilight Eclipse somehow hits the table. There's the bury. There's 2 additional cards. 1 more card will get buried again, as we now see a Walking Boneyard in play, or in hand. Alchemite. No, Walking Boneyard now going to be thrown down here, as things are going to continue to move on. Still has the Killblade of the Milky Eyes. Could have tried to press with them, but really wanted to use them more on the defensive end. Papa Goot now currently ready, going to go ahead and draw a card. He does draw a Blight Bark Thrall, very useful. Gets a 3rd Daybreak out. Vesper is now up to a 4/4. And is he going to attack? He can't attack into that Walking Boneyard. That Boneyard is just far too strong. The Blight Bark Thrall is going to be very, very, at least semi-useful here, as we're still looking at what the follow-up play is going to be. All right. Balance of the Scales is going to grab a troop from the crypt, give it +3/+3. And what troop is it going to be? It is going to be the powerful Loyal Toolbox, so it will get 2 boons when it is deployed the following turn. Most likely looking for some sort of flight and speed would probably be the best, but any sort of evasion obviously would be good there. All right, let's continue on. I'm going to go ahead and bury some cards, as the clock is on. 4 cards being lost per turn for Papa Goot, as we now see a Journey into the Nightmare. All right, that is going to be a 5th card lost every turn, and now he's doing the math. He's trying to ask himself, what is 4 cards a turn really that much better than 5 cards a turn getting milled? It does end up giving me card advantage, and I think Journey into the Nightmare is going to go ahead and bury some cards there. I'm going to go ahead and give a +5 attack, swinging with a 13/18. There is a chump block there. Is that going to draw a card? Yes, it will. And now that drawing of a card actually kind of hurts. That Journey into the... That was actually a brilliant count right there. That Journey into the Nightmare going to cause additional burying. And now he is on a 3-turn clock. Loyal Toolbox with Lethal and Swift Strike, making for a rather deadly combination. That is going to be able to deal some damage, but with Killblade of the Milky Eyes out on the field, that is going to be at least some sort of chump blocking going on. All right, gonna go ahead and chump block those 2 troops right there. They are now lost. We now see an 11/11 out on the field, as we now, a Rhyme Claw is a perfect top deck. Rhyme Claw could be, well, it could be Frost Formed. Oh no, it cannot be Frost Formed, because you need the Diamond Shard. All right, so you can't Frost Form him. You can play him normally, since his thresholds were converted, but not any of his activated abilities. From here, he has the option to either play an Alchemite or a Frost Rock. Interesting point about the Alchemite, though, and the Alchemite, he can play the Alchemite and then just naturally assume that he's going to bounce, but then he wouldn't have enough resources for the Nameless Orator, which is the true clock that's going on. So I don't believe he's going to play either of those 2. He does want the Rhyme Claw out there, though, just to prevent any sort of crazy lethal damage that could be coming in, as we now see a Twilight Eclipse out onto the field. That Twilight Eclipse going to make a big problem now, as the clock is truly on. Twilight Eclipse is going to be dealing 4 damage a turn. You can see that Grishal is currently at 17, so he is on a 4-turn clock as well. All right, we see Rhyme Claw. There's the block. There's the invincibility. And with that, the berry, we'll see what the follow-up play is going to be, as the Walking Boneyard is now currently a 12-12. All right, going to go ahead and top deck, get a resource. We'll see what all of this is going to be here. Gonna go ahead and grab a Rummager. Gonna discard a Blood Shard. Not really caring about that. Gonna go ahead and play down another Blood Shard. Plays down a Brittle Alchemite. Very smart call there. Even though he had the resources, he knows he is on the clock with the Nameless Orator. And here's the question. Does he attack with the Walking Boneyard? No real reason to. There is plenty of blockers out onto the field, as we now see Papa Goot get up to 34 life. A second Twilight Eclipse now hits down onto the table. Oh, that is that enough damage? Hold on, 6, 12. No, it is not. It is, yeah, just not enough. That is going to be 1 damage shy right there in 2 turns. And that is going to be absolutely critical and key. Nameless Orator can mill 4. Ghastly Exchange will mill 1. And Rhyme... Okay, hold on. So Nameless Orator is going to be 4 cards. 2 now, 2 on his turn. Journey into the Nightmare is going to grab 1. Ghastly Exchange will mill 1. So there should be 0 cards if Grishal plays this right. So there's the exhaust. Gonna go ahead, ready up everything. Draws a card. There's the mill. Nameless Orator can still, once again, exhaust, mill the 2. And we are now going to go into a game number 3. All right, going to end it all up right there. And this was actually key. Start of the turn, gets down to 1 health, then he draws the cards. So that was as close of a game as you could possibly get, as we do go into game number 3 here. I'll go ahead and load up the interface here, as we now go into game number 3. All right, so starting player delay, a little bit right there. Let's go ahead and see what's going to be happening here. Both players are going to go ahead and choose their opening hands, as we are all tied up. Papa Goot versus Grishal the Profane. Twilight versus Mill. Opening hand, a Vesper, 2 Guidances, and a Daybreak Diviner. I don't believe you could have any much of a better card there, as what is this? Demented Ascension. Wow, Demented Ascension. Talk about getting on point rares. Journey into the Nightmare and Demented Ascension for Grishal the Profane's deck. We'll see if that actually comes to pass as we now move on. I'm gonna go ahead and play down Blood Shard, get the Maggot Swarm out onto the field. And what's gonna happen first? Are we going to mill first, or are we going to find all of our necessary cards first? Those Twilight Eclipses being oh so strong and powerful. All right, gonna go ahead, most likely play a Guidance. Let's see if he goes for Fortune or Adventure. Goes for Adventure the first time, and leaves 1 Guidance behind. Interesting choice. He wants to see what he draws later, as we now see a Demented Ascension out on the table. And did you lose a tooth? Almost. Okay. Daddy's almost done, okay? Okay. All right. My daughter has a loose tooth right there. All right, let's see what the follow-up play is going to be. Swinging back around, you see Blood Shard now being placed down. We will most likely be getting a a Daybreak here in just a second. But the options are Dawnsteed instead. It will be damage in the air. It is a 3/3 now with a 2/2 out on the field. Daybreak Diviner, most likely the better follow-up play, and still wondering about Papa Goot's choice of not placing that Guidance earlier on. All right, still going to continue on right now. There is a Diamond Shard playing that Daybreak Diviner now. He is going to get a Dread Factory out onto the field. And what is going to be happening here? He's going to be swinging with both. Damage in the air, taken down as the Maggot Swarm goes into a 1/3. All right. Demented Ascension. It could trigger here, as we do see milling of 4, of 5 the next turn. Let's take a look at this. Yes, the Mosh Pit Gladiator mills 5 off the top of the deck. Maggot Swarm is now a 3/3 as we swing things back around. Shard of Retribution. Oh, no, Guidance. Let's see what he's going to be going for. He goes for Adventure, grabs the Balance of the Scales, and most likely will just place down a Diamond Shard and play a Shade Knight. He has the option to play the Shard of Retribution next turn, which will allow him to use the Balance of the Scales to give +3/+3. Also, that Vesper is going to go to a 4/4, but he still doesn't want to necessarily attack into that Mosh Pit Gladiator. He somehow wants to get above. No, he's going to purposely swing here. There is the double exchange. I don't know if that was really the smarter call there. The Shade Knight is going to go down, and he perhaps will be able to get the Vesper next turn. All right, going to go ahead and draw a card, discard a card, place down a Sapphire. Going to go ahead and play down the Nameless Citizen. And this is where things start to get a little bit dicey. The Dread Factory would actually most likely end up dealing more damage. Another Vesper being brought into play. So he could play the Vesper, balance the scales. Go upstairs. Balance the scales. Balance the scales. And then making, oh, right, going to go ahead and play the Daybreak. Why play the Daybreak before playing the Vesper in hand? That was actually a little bit questionable right there. There's the Balance of Scales. He's going to get the Dawn Steed and now have a 5/5, 6/6 flyer in the air in order to fight all of this back. He does have a Shade Knight to stop the Nameless Citizen, but he has to be very careful with his blocking. The Nameless Citizen and the Shade Knight exchanging will bury more cards and then add a Shade Knight to the crypt. And as soon as there are more cards in the crypt than in the draw deck, things do get a little bit scary, but the Nameless Citizen obviously afraid of that Dawn Steed since he doesn't have a combat trick in hand. He could have perhaps used this and swung with the Nameless Citizen, trying to see if he could bait an attack out some way. He could have perhaps buried 4 cards, gotten an additional troop as well, and then his opponent would be at 15 cards in the crypt, but no real way to stop anything else. But the clock is now on. Papa Goot getting that Twilight Eclipse. Vesper most likely going to hit the table, followed by that Twilight Eclipse. It is going to end up being a 2/2 Vesper that can now trade with that Nameless Citizen. And with the Twilight Eclipse on the field, it looks like that should end up being GG with no easy way of removing Constance in this Blood and Sapphire deck in Limited. All right, let's see what's going to be happening here. Grishal the Profane's end turn. No additional actions. Nope. Oh, going to go ahead and draw the Dread Factory. We are going to be getting a Dreadlings soon, perhaps, but the Dreadlings will not make even a difference here, as we are going to be having a Twilight Eclipse dealing 4 damage a turn. You can see Grishal the Profane currently at 3, and that is going to be it right there. Twilight Eclipse is going to finish off his opponent. The Oculus didn't even bother trying to chump block at all. Major mistake there. Nameless Citizen needed the swing attack, swing early, perhaps try and bury, not getting the Twilight Eclipse, but that's always a coin flip, not knowing what you're going to bury and what you're going to allow your opponent to bury into. At this point, Grishal the Profane's looking at his hand, and well, it looks like he is dead on all accounts, and that is it. Papa Goot taking out Grishal the Profane, and this was the semifinals match of the latest clash. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.